With tensions rising across the Middle East, President Trump today called the situation good, even as talks between the two countries appear to be on hold. New tonight, the United Arab Emirates has suspended trade with Iran after it says missiles targeted the country. The conflict is testing U.S. military readiness, with defense stockpiles dropping sharply, raising questions about the ability to sustain operations across multiple regions. And just today, news the USS Abraham Lincoln is finally coming home after an extended 9-month deployment, and reports the sailors on board are dealing with fatigue, food shortages, low morale, poor living conditions. But it could be 9 months and counting for the 3 destroyers protecting the Lincoln and the nearly 1,000 sailors on board. Joining us tonight to discuss is retired 4-star Army General Barry McCaffrey, also a military analyst for MS Now. General, thanks for being with us tonight.
Yeah, good to be with you, Joyce.
From a military standpoint, let's just start with how you would describe where the war stands right now.
It's a strategic stalemate. The U.S. Navy at sea has enforced a blockade. They're also trying to smuggle some oil tankers out of the Persian Gulf. Mr. Trump is insisting the Gulf is open to transit. It clearly is not. The Iranians, on their hand, have hammered 15 of our bases in the Middle East that were used to logistically support deployed forces. They're unusable now. Everything inside the Persian Gulf and even the Oman Naval Supply Center, which was in the Arabian Gulf. So, very difficult situation. As far as I can tell, the Navy's logistics support primarily is coming from Diego Garcia, 2,500 miles away. A destroyer stopped dead in the water for 4 days, had to get towed all the way to the Philippines and Subic Bay to be repaired in the course of 10 days. So again, my hat's off to the Navy for keeping this force supplied as well as they have, but it's a very tenuous situation for the U.S. Armed Forces.
And let's talk more about that. As you know, the USS Abraham Lincoln has been operating under that extended deployment. Just hearing today that they are going to be able to come home. What can you tell us from the military folks that you've talked to behind the scenes about the conditions on board, the reports of fatigue and low morale, food shortages, less than ideal living conditions? What's going on aboard the Lincoln?
Well, to be honest, Joyce, I'm more worried about the ship than the sailors. The sailors are pretty tough people, men and women. There's 5,000 some odd sailors aboard that carrier itself. Sure, it's a demanding, uncomfortable. They didn't know what was going to happen when they'd finally redeploy. That was tough on them, no question. But maintaining complex operating machinery at sea for extended periods of time is really tough to do. It's not just port calls where you get a cold beer and walk around town. You got to get these ships in and replace the missiles aboard an Aegis class destroyer in port. And that means how are we going to support this effort? Primarily, Kuwait, Bahrain, and Al Udeid Air Force Base were the principal forms of keeping U.S. military forces supplied. I think those days are over. We're going to have to see repositioning of U.S. military presence, probably into Western Saudi Arabia, clearly up into Jordan and Israel, and possibly long-range support out of European theater.
How concerned are you about just readiness? You know, there have been lots of reports of a depletion of the interceptor stockpiles. What does that mean for the United States' ability to deter or even respond to separate crises in the Pacific or in Europe?
Well, I think that's the important question to ask. Over time, it's not just the readiness of primarily air power and sea power, but it's also the ability to deter malefactors. North Korea clearly is one of them, China eyeing Taiwan, and we've seen a substantial reduction, according to credible reporting, in the on-hand stocks of defensive missiles like Army Patriot, THAAD, and Navy SM-2, and also offensive missiles, the Army's precision strike munition and Navy Tomahawk. So there's no question that trying to rev up the industrial base to replenish these stocks is a matter of years, not weeks. So we're in somewhat of a very dangerous situation.
And then I'm just curious, before I run out of time, What are China, Russia, North Korea, what are they thinking as they watch what's happening with this war and what's happening with the U.S. military?
I think there's probably disbelief and some joy at the confusion, the erratic behavior of Mr. Trump in particular. I mean, threatening to reduce the defense of South Korea because of his friendship with Kim Jong-un, having the Navy come in and insisting they redesign the carriers so that the island command center on a carrier on the Ford is further in the middle of the ship like World War II carriers. I mean, some of this is just goofy and strange. So our national security process has broken down. Our allies distrust us. The American people don't support this war. This is a chaotic, strategic disaster in the making for the United States.
General Barry McCaffrey, we're going to have to leave it there tonight. We'll talk with you again soon, though. We really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Good with him.